and I think I've got some other things, some other cats I want to skin, some other things I want to get into. To quote Stevie Nicks, I think I have to go my own way.
For years, fans thought they knew why Aaron Kaufman left Gas Monkey Garage. They saw him walk away from one of the biggest car shows on television. But was the real reason ever fully explained? Aaron had fame, money, loyal fans, and a successful career. Yet he still chose to leave it all behind. Something had changed. The pressure was growing. The work was changing. Many people blamed Richard Rawlings. Others blamed the show itself. But Aaron's real reason may surprise you. So, what really happened behind the scenes that made Aaron finally walk away? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. Aaron Kaufman finally reveals why he really left Gas Monkey. Aaron Kaufman became one of the most known car builders at Gas Monkey Garage. Many people knew him from the television show Fast and Loud. On the show, he worked closely with Richard Rawlings and the rest of the Gas Monkey team. Aaron was known for his strong skills with cars, machines, metalwork, and difficult repairs. He was the person who often had to take an old or damaged car and turn it into something that could run again. But behind the success of the show, Aaron was dealing with a level of pressure that became harder and harder to handle. Aaron had been interested in machines from a young age. He liked taking things apart and trying to understand how they worked. After leaving school, he worked in a machine shop and learned many things by himself. He read books, studied parts, tried different ideas, made mistakes, and then tried again. He did not become skilled overnight. He slowly built his knowledge through years of practice. One of his early successful projects was a 1984 Jeep Cherokee. He later worked on cars for friends, sometimes for little money or even for free. His love for cars was stronger than his need for money. For him, building cars was not just a job. It was something he truly enjoyed. His skills eventually brought him into the world of Gas Monkey Garage. Richard Rawlings had started the garage in Dallas and was building a business around old cars and hot rods. When television came into the picture, the work at the garage became the subject of Fast and Loud. The show became very popular. The basic idea was simple. Richard would find an old car, buy it, and bring it back to the shop. Aaron and the other workers would then repair it and rebuild it. The goal was to finish the car and sell it. This simple idea became a very successful television formula. Richard was good at talking, buying cars, making deals, and dealing with customers. Aaron was good at the actual building. He had to solve problems when things did not go as planned. And with old cars, things often went wrong. A missing part, a broken engine, a wiring problem, or a bad piece of metal could quickly create a new problem. Aaron was expected to find the answer and keep the project moving. As the show became bigger, the pressure also became bigger. The cars had to be finished within very short periods. Some projects had to be completed in only a few days. This was difficult because a proper car build can take weeks or months. The television cameras also made the work harder. The workers could not always simply focus on the car. They had to stop, film scenes, repeat actions, and deal with the demands of making a television show. This meant that lost time had to be recovered later. Aaron and the crew often worked late into the night. Sometimes they worked until the morning. There were times when Aaron did not even go home. He slept at the shop because the job was not finished. The working hours became extreme. He sometimes worked more than 100 hours in 1 week. This kind of schedule could continue for long periods. The money and success of the show could not remove the tiredness. Aaron still had to deal with the same pressure every time another project came through the door. The problem was not that Aaron hated cars. In fact, the opposite was true. He loved cars too much to keep building them in a way that made him unhappy. He wanted more time to work on difficult projects. He wanted to create bigger and better machines. He wanted to take his time and make sure the work was done properly. Television did not always allow that. A project that could take months in a normal workshop might have to be completed in a matter of days for the show. This created a serious problem for Aaron. He wanted to build at the level he knew he could reach, but the television schedule kept pushing him forward. Much of the work he did never appeared on television. A large amount of work could be completed behind the scenes, but viewers might only see a few minutes of it. For Aaron, this meant that the hardest part of his work was often missing from the final show. Over time, the excitement began to disappear. The job that once gave him joy was becoming a source of stress. The pressure continued year after year. The last several years felt extremely long to him. He reached a point where he knew something had to change. His decision was not made because he suddenly stopped caring about cars. It came because he wanted a different life and a different way of working. He wanted to slow down, take control of his time, and build cars without always looking at the clock. This growing pressure became one of the biggest reasons Aaron eventually decided to leave Gas Monkey Garage. So, what finally pushed Aaron to leave Gas Monkey, and what happened after he walked away? Keep watching for more. The decision to leave and the life that followed. Aaron Kaufman's decision to leave Gas Monkey Garage became public in 2016. His departure surprised many people because he had become such an important part of Fast and Loud. Viewers were used to seeing Aaron and Richard Rawlings working together. They looked like close friends on television. They joked with each other, argued over cars, and worked together when a project was close to failure. Because of this, many people believed their relationship was much closer than it really was. Away from the cameras, Aaron and Richard were very different people. Richard enjoyed business, talking to people, making deals, and being in the middle of the action. Aaron was quieter. He preferred machines, engineering, problem-solving, and working with his hands. These differences did not cause problems at first. In fact, they helped make the show work. Each man had a different job and a different strength, but as the years passed, their differences became harder to ignore. Aaron wanted to move in another direction. He wanted to work on bigger projects and have more control over his work. Richard was focused on the business and the television show. Their goals were no longer exactly the same. There were also personal differences between them. Aaron did not describe Richard as a terrible person. He did not say that one big fight caused him to leave. Instead, the problem was that they saw life and work in different ways. Their working relationship had changed over the years. Aaron had also become tired. After years of long hours and heavy pressure, he wanted a normal schedule. When he returned from what had been called a vacation, he told Richard that the break would become permanent. He was leaving. Richard was clearly shocked. He asked if there was a way to change Aaron's mind. Aaron made it clear that his decision was already made. One of the projects that showed Aaron's different way of thinking was a De Tomaso Pantera fitted with a Ford EcoBoost engine. The project was difficult and powerful, but Aaron did not see it as the best work he could do. To him, it was closer to the lowest level he wanted to accept. He believed that if he had more time, he could do much more. Another important car in his story was a 1963 Ford Falcon. Aaron raced the car at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. He returned to the mountain more than once and pushed the car through the difficult race. The Falcon became something personal to him. It was not just another car made for a television episode. It was connected to his own interests and his own goals. After leaving Gas Monkey, Aaron sold the Falcon. This marked the end of one part of his life. But he did not leave the car world behind. In 2017, he opened his own business, ArcLight Fabrication. The shop was much smaller than Gas Monkey Garage, but that was part of the point. Aaron could now work in a way that suited him. The business focused mainly on classic Ford F-100 trucks. He could spend more time working on suspension, engines, frames, wheels, and other parts of the build. He was no longer forced to build a car simply because a television deadline was coming. Later, Aaron returned to television with Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman. This time, things were different. Projects could take longer. The work did not always have to be squeezed into one short episode. Aaron had more freedom to work on large and difficult builds. This showed that he had not truly rejected television. He had rejected the constant rush. His story is therefore not simply about a man leaving a famous garage. It is about a skilled worker realizing that success was costing him too much. Aaron still loved cars. He still loved building machines. What he wanted was the freedom to do the work properly. His departure from Gas Monkey was caused by years of pressure, long working hours, short deadlines, creative limits, and differences with Richard Rawlings. In the end, Aaron chose control over his time and work instead of continuing with a lifestyle that was making him unhappy. His decision allowed him to build a new career around the thing he had always loved most: creating and working on cars. After walking away from Gas Monkey, would Aaron finally find the freedom he wanted? And what would happen to his relationship with Richard? Let's delve deeper. Aaron's new freedom and his changing relationship with Richard. Aaron Kaufman became famous because of Fast and Loud, but he did not act like a normal television star. Even though millions of people watched the show, Aaron did not spend much time watching himself on television. He only watched a few episodes during the first years of the program. He had a simple reason for this. He did not want to see how the show made him look. Aaron knew that the cameras recorded many hours of work, but only a small part of that work appeared on television. He also knew that producers could cut his words, change the order of scenes, and decide how his relationship with Richard Rawlings would look to viewers. Aaron felt that watching all of this could make him unhappy with his own work. So, instead of worrying about the show, he focused on what he loved most, which was building cars. Another issue showed how much the television business could affect his personal life. Aaron became known for his large beard, and the beard became part of his image on the show. At one point, he wanted to shave it. However, the producers reportedly told him that he could not. Aaron did not like being told what he could do with his own appearance. He made it clear that they could ask him nicely to keep the beard, but he did not want to be ordered around. The producers changed their approach, and Aaron agreed to keep it. Still, the event showed him that the show was not only about building cars. His personal image had also become part of the business. After leaving Gas Monkey, Aaron did not completely leave television behind. He later returned with a new show called Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman. This time, things were different. Aaron had more control over the projects and more time to complete them. The builds could continue for several episodes instead of being rushed into one short episode. This gave him the chance to work on difficult projects that matched his skills. One major project involved building an off-road truck for the King of the Hammers race. It was the type of large and difficult project that Aaron wanted to work on. His return showed that he did not hate television. He simply wanted to work without the same pressure he had faced before. His relationship with Richard Rawlings also changed after he left. The two men were not close friends, but they did not become complete enemies either. Aaron usually avoided attacking Richard in public. Instead, he explained that they were very different people. Richard enjoyed deals, business, crowds, and fast action. Aaron preferred machines, hard technical work, and taking time to build things properly. These differences helped make Gas Monkey successful at first, but later they pushed the two men in different directions. In the end, their relationship became that of former business partners who had shared an important part of their lives. Both men gained something from the partnership, but they eventually needed different things. Aaron wanted freedom, control, and time to build cars his own way. Richard continued with the business and television world. Their story shows how two people can work well together for many years and still reach a point where they need to go separate ways. After Aaron's departure, what happened to Gas Monkey Garage, and how did the company begin to change? Let's take a closer look. How Gas Monkey changed and lost some of its old support. After Aaron Kaufman left Gas Monkey Garage, the company continued to work and make cars, but many people felt that something had changed.
However, Rawlings has been without right-hand man Kaufman since 2016, when the mechanic announced that he was quitting the show and Gas Monkey Garage.
Aaron had been a very important part of the team. He was known for his strong skills, his quiet nature, and his ability to take old cars and turn them into something special. Richard Rawlings was more outgoing and was often the person dealing with business, deals, and the public. Aaron was more focused on the actual work inside the garage. This difference between them had helped make the show interesting. After Aaron left, that balance was gone. The garage still had workers, cars, and new projects, But the old feeling was not easy to replace. Some fans believed that the show no longer had the same heart. They had become used to seeing Aaron work on difficult cars and explain the work in his calm way. Without him, the program looked different. The company also started to grow much bigger than a normal car garage. Richard Rawlings began using the Gas Monkey name for many other businesses. The name appeared on bars, restaurants, drinks, racing projects, merchandise, and other business ideas. This helped make Gas Monkey a large brand that reached far beyond the garage. More people knew the name, and the company had more ways to make money. But this growth also changed how some people looked at the business. Gas Monkey was no longer seen only as a place where people built and sold cars. It had become a name that could be placed on almost anything connected to business and entertainment. Some fans began to feel that the original reason they liked Gas Monkey was getting lost. They had first followed the company because of the cars, the workers, the hard work, and the excitement of building something from nothing. As more businesses appeared, some viewers felt that making money and growing the brand had become more important. This feeling also affected the way some people viewed Fast and Loud. The show had once been known for its rough and simple style. Old cars were found, brought into the shop, repaired, changed, and prepared for sale. The work was difficult, and the team often had very little time to finish it. That pressure was part of what made the show exciting. However, as the years passed, some fans became unhappy with the direction of the program. They felt that there was more attention on television drama, business, and the Gas Monkey name. Some viewers believed that the cars did not always receive the same level of care that they had seen in the earlier years. The program still had big builds and expensive cars, but some longtime viewers said the feeling was no longer the same. They wanted the simple car-building story back. They wanted to see people who loved cars doing the work because they enjoyed it, not just because it made good television. The growing criticism showed that the company was facing a problem. Gas Monkey had become bigger, but being bigger did not always mean being more loved. The more the brand changed, the more some of its original supporters felt disconnected from it. As Gas Monkey continued to grow and change, what finally happened to the famous show and the businesses that followed? Let's learn more. The end of the show and the problems that followed. The changes around Gas Monkey eventually led to the end of Fast and Loud. After many years on television, the show ended in 2020. It had once been a major success and had helped make Gas Monkey and Richard Rawlings famous around the world.
So what's happening with your show, man? What are you doing? What's the latest?
Oh, shit, you're just going to go right for the big one,
let's
huh?
get in there, man. What's the latest?
Well, everybody hold on to your hat out there. Fast and Loud is no more.
But by the time it ended, many things were different. The show did not receive a huge final goodbye. There was no major ending that brought the whole story together. Instead, it simply stopped. Richard later confirmed that Fast and Loud was finished. The end of the program closed an important part of the Gas Monkey story. However, Richard Rawlings did not stop working after the show ended. He continued looking for new business opportunities and ways to keep the Gas Monkey name alive. He moved toward online content and continued working on bars and other projects. The end of the television show, therefore, did not mean the end of Richard's business life. He still had a strong name, a large audience, and a brand that many people knew. But his new projects also showed some of the problems that could come with trying to grow a business too quickly. One example came in 2024, when a Gas Monkey Bar and Grill opened in Sturgis, South Dakota. The location opened during the famous Sturgis motorcycle rally, when thousands of people came into the area. This created a huge chance for the business to attract customers. But the opening reportedly came with serious problems. The place was rushed into operation, and the large crowd put pressure on the workers. Customers complained about long waits, poor service, and problems with the food. Some people reportedly had to wait a long time before receiving their meals. Others were unhappy with the quality of the service. After the rally, negative comments also appeared online. The problems created another difficult moment for the Gas Monkey name. The company had once been strongly connected with cars, hard work, and a love of building machines. Now, a business carrying the same name was receiving attention for problems with food and customer service. This showed how far the Gas Monkey brand had moved from its original purpose. The company had grown into many different areas, But not every new project worked well. The Sturgis problems also gave critics another reason to question whether the company was spreading itself too far. The story of Gas Monkey, therefore, became more than the story of a successful car garage. It became the story of a business that grew very quickly, changed its focus, faced criticism, lost an important member, and eventually saw its famous television show come to an end. Richard continued moving forward, but the company could not completely return to the early days when the main focus was simply building great cars. The Gas Monkey name remained known, but the meaning of that name had changed for many people. As Gas Monkey grew, what started going wrong behind the scenes? Keep watching for more. The people and problems behind Gas Monkey Garage. Aaron Kaufman's time at Gas Monkey Garage was shaped by the people around him and by the growing pressure that came with success. One of the most important people in his career was Richard Rawlings. The two men had worked together for years before they became famous on television. Rawlings was more focused on business, deals, customers, and building the Gas Monkey name. Aaron was more focused on the cars. He cared about how the cars were built, how strong they were, and how good the final work looked. When Fast and Loud became popular, their business grew very quickly. More people watched the show, more cars had to be built, and more work had to be finished in less time. This created a problem for Aaron. He wanted enough time to do the work properly. He did not like having to rush through a job simply because a television deadline was coming. The more successful the show became, the more difficult this became for him. Aaron and Richard were therefore moving in different directions. Richard had to think about the business and the television show, while Aaron wanted to protect the quality of the cars. By 2017, Aaron decided that he could no longer continue in the same way.
Aaron quit Gas Monkey Garage in 2016 because of creative differences with the owner, Richard Rawlings, and his approach to fixing up vintage cars that they bought cheap on the street.
His departure was not presented as a loud fight or a personal attack. Instead, it came from a growing difference in what each man wanted. Christy Brimberry was also working inside this difficult environment. She had an important role in helping manage the garage and dealing with schedules, money, producers, and the crew. As the show became bigger, her job became harder. Aaron wanted more time for his work, while the production side wanted cars finished quickly. This meant that Christy sometimes had to deal with demands that Aaron did not agree with. Arguments could happen over money, deadlines, changes, and the way a project should be completed. The problem was not simply one person against another. The whole workplace was under pressure. The garage was no longer just a small place where people could work on cars at their own speed. It had become part of a major television production. This meant that cameras, schedules, producers, sponsors, and viewers were now part of the work. Aaron had to deal with all of this while still trying to make cars he could be proud of. That pressure slowly changed the way he looked at the job. What had once been something he loved was becoming harder to enjoy. His experience with Tom Smith also showed how difficult the workplace could become. Tom had a very different personality from Aaron. He was loud, open, and willing to make quick decisions. Aaron was quieter and more careful. He wanted things done properly and did not like careless work. When people with such different ways of working are placed together under pressure, problems can happen. Their differences could lead to arguments about parts, wiring, repairs, and how quickly a job should be finished. Tom later moved away from Gas Monkey and followed his own path. These events showed that the growing success of the garage did not make everything easier. In some ways, it made things harder. The more people expected from the company, the more pressure the workers faced. For Aaron, the main question became whether success was still worth the cost. After all the pressure inside Gas Monkey, what finally made Aaron choose freedom over fame? Let's find out. Why Aaron chose his own way. Another important part of Aaron Kaufman's story was his view of what television had done to the car-building world. Chip Foose became an example of the polished and highly planned style that many television audiences had come to expect. Foose was known for making beautiful cars and creating exciting television moments. Aaron respected his skill, but he did not want to copy that style. He believed real car building could be messy. Sometimes a part did not work. Sometimes a repair took longer than expected. Sometimes a car had to be changed many times before it was right. Aaron wanted people to see the real work instead of only seeing a perfect final result. Television, however, often needed a different kind of story. A car had to be finished within a certain time. There had to be an exciting ending. There had to be something that kept viewers watching. This could make difficult work look much easier than it really was. Aaron became uncomfortable with this growing difference. He wanted to be known as a builder, not simply as a person appearing on television. Casey Mathieu was another important person in Aaron's story. Casey was a skilled painter who worked on many of the cars connected to Gas Monkey Garage. His work required patience and attention to detail. Aaron understood this because he cared about the same things. Both men knew that good work could not always be rushed. But as the television show became bigger, even painting jobs faced shorter deadlines. Work that once needed weeks could be pushed into only a few days. Sponsors also wanted their products shown, while producers wanted the work completed in time for filming. This made the job stressful. Casey eventually stepped away and focused on his own work, customers, and family. His decision showed Aaron that leaving could sometimes be the best choice when a working environment no longer felt right. Aaron later made the same kind of choice for himself. He left Gas Monkey and built his own company, ArcLight Fabrication.
Having quit Gas Monkey Garage, Kaufman decided to set up his own shop, ArcLight Fabrication. Once he had stepped away from Gas Monkey Garage, it didn't take long for Aaron Kaufman to set up his own garage.
There, he could work on the type of cars he enjoyed without having to follow the same television schedule. He could take his time. He could make changes. He could focus on the details. Most importantly, he could decide how the work should be done. His decision did not mean that everything connected to Gas Monkey was bad. The garage had given him fame, opportunities, and a large audience. It had also helped make him one of the best-known builders in the country. But fame came with a price. The job became faster, more public, and more controlled by outside demands. Aaron appeared to believe that keeping his freedom was more important than staying on a successful television show. His story therefore became less about losing fame and more about choosing what mattered to him. He chose the workshop over the spotlight. He chose careful work over speed. He chose his own ideas over the demands of television. The people around him took different paths, but their stories all showed the same problem. Success can bring money and attention, but it can also bring pressure. When that pressure becomes too strong, people may have to decide what they are willing to give up. For Aaron, the answer was clear. He was willing to give up television fame if it meant he could continue building cars in a way that felt honest to him. What do you think about the show Gas Monkey? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If Aaron Kaufman's journey, his Gas Monkey struggles, and his decision to walk away caught your attention, please like, subscribe, and watch the next video for more untold stories. See you there?